Welcome back to the third part of One Man's Faith today. We're looking at 1 Samuel. We're just talking about Saul and the trouble that he got himself into. He started off by trying to appease the people and to get them to like him and stay with him. They were they were leaving him because it was 3,000 to a gazillion people, okay? And so he performed a sacrifice that he wasn't supposed to perform. That was strike one. Strike two, in another sense, was he made a vow. He said, listen, nobody is to eat a thing until we finish dealing with the Philistines. His son, Jonathan, who just routed and started this thing of the Philistines being routed and devoured, so to speak, ate some honey. He never heard the command from the Father. And it came down to a knowing that something had gone wrong. And so they drew lots to see who it was, and it fell to Jonathan. And Saul said, well, if it's Jonathan, he will die. And the people said, no, he's the hero. You can't kill him. And Saul doesn't. Strike two. And now Samuel gives Saul a task that God had said, go eradicate everything belonging to the Amalekites. And he didn't. Strike three. You're out. And Saul even said to Samuel, I've sinned. I have indeed transgressed the commandment of the Lord because I feared the people and listened to their voice. Yeah, that's exactly what you did. But now, therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me that I may worship the Lord. And Samuel said to Saul, I will not return to you. For you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. And this chapter ends by saying, and Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death, which is years later. That's how much it grieved Samuel. And the Lord, I guess for lack of a better word, left Saul. He withdrew himself from Saul. Now Saul is being a king by his own might. Okay, and it really gets him into a lot of trouble. All right, so Saul is now not king. Technically he is. He's still in that position, but he doesn't have the backing of God, and he doesn't have the backing of the prophet. So God says, okay, Samuel, I want you to go to Jesse in Bethlehem, because one of his kids is the one that I've selected, that God said I've selected to be the king. So Samuel gets a flask of oil, goes to Jesse, said, Jesse, I need to see your kids, because one of them God has selected as king. And so he brings in the first one, and just as Saul was a head taller than everybody else and a handsome dude, and that's kind of how he got selected, the first son of Jesse comes out, and he is tall, and he's a handsome dude. And Samuel said, by golly, this has got to be him. And God says, it ain't him. And so Samuel says, well, Jesse, that one doesn't do it. How about another one? And so 6 of the kids of Jesse come out, and each one of them, God says no. And so Samuel says, are there no more? And Jesse says an interesting thing. He says, well, I've got one last one, but he's out in the field. He's tending the sheep. And Samuel said, well, one of your kids is going to be it, so go get him and let's see. And so David comes in, and it says that he was ruddy with beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Now notice it said he was ruddy. The word ruddy there comes from a word that means red. David was different from his other brothers. It's possible that the mother of the six was not the mother of David because of the difference in appearance. Don't know. But in Psalm 51, I believe it is. Let me just look real quick over here. Psalm 51, David is confessing. Oh, and he says, this is what David says. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin my mother conceived me. David said this. So it's very possible that Jesse either had another wife or had an affair outside of his marriage or whatever. And so David was different, and probably why David was kind of put out. He wasn't considered part of the family. He was just that kid, okay? And so that's why he wasn't brought in with the other six. But he comes in and God says, okay, this is him. Anoint him. And so Samuel took the horn and anointed him in the midst of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon David from that day forward. And then Samuel went and he went away. So now David is anointed king. David is probably in his teens, maybe 15. He's still a young man. Saul starts having nightmares and is being tormented by demons because the Lord had left him. So he's on his own, even spiritually. And I can't get my page to there. And so they decide that they need a very skillful instrumentalist to come and to play music to help calm Saul down. Well, David is one of the best around the area, so they bring David in, and David starts playing for Saul and becomes his armor bearer. And eventually Saul says, Jesse, I want David to stay with me. So David comes into the house and comes like a second son to Saul. And it says, it came about that whenever the evil spirit from God came to Saul, David would take the harp and play it with his hand, and Saul would be refreshed and be well, and the evil spirit would depart. So music does things. Music does things. You don't have to hear the words for the words to get in you. Music is dangerous in this aspect. Secular music that talks about drugs, demons, rape, incest, all those things. Even though you may be listening in the background, you're hearing the music. That music is carrying the message, and you get it in. It's why advertisements normally use music of some sort, because we remember the music and it gets into us. David knew this. They understood this then, because they knew that the music would drive the demon away. And music soothes even today. I was trying to think of the term. Orchestral music, classical music, really, like Bach, Beethoven, things like that. those being played tend to calm people down more than, say, hard rock, because of the way the music is. And so David would come and he would play, and then David becomes part of the family of Saul. He's staying now at the king's house. I think it's in Shiloh now, because I don't think they've moved to Jerusalem. Okay, so he's with him. Now, David goes back home for a little while because Saul is out in battle. And Saul is again against the Philistines. Saul has problems with the Philistines for the rest of his reign. Okay, so they're out, and this is a different type of battle. Israel is lined up on one mountain. The Philistines are on the other mountain. Down in the valley, they bring in this giant called Goliath. And he's taunting the people of Israel. And he's saying, hey, send somebody out. If he wins, we'll leave, we'll give up. If we win, then you got to give in to us, okay? And Goliath keeps doing this for 40 days. He would come out, he would stand there, and he would taunt the people of Israel. Well, Jesse decided to send some food to his kids because they're on the battle line, and to get David to see how they're doing. So David goes out there, and David hears Goliath. And what Goliath is saying, he's saying, hey, why are you letting this uncircumcised Philistine say these things? And they say, hey, do you see who you're talking about? The 10-foot giant? And David said, it doesn't make any difference. We are the people of God. Do you hear the confidence that David has? But David is not one of those to say, yeah, I can say this, but you're the ones that got to go out there. So you go out there and do it. No, 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 no. David says, I'll do it. He says, what's the reward if I do it? And they said, well, we've heard that Saul will give his daughter to the one that takes out the giant. And with that, we'll come back in just a minute for the rest of the story. I'll be right back.